So when I think about education and to illuminate something within education, I always think about how to create a safe space, and not meaning just like where people feel comfortable in the space, but really to create a space that's conducive to dialogue and to make people feel included, where they don't have to speak, but they have that, power to speak if they are comfortable. And so I use creativity, and it is a huge, powerful tool to create that safe space for people to kind of just relax into it, and then start with that and then create the dialogue after. So for me, the pressing challenges that I've seen in education, because personally I facilitate a small group, and we are online. So we're kind of staying within the COVID model that actually worked really well for a digital media program for young people, because we're teaching employment skills and that kind of thing. But I also do a lot of work within the education system, specifically for teachers, and a lot with teachers within middle schools and some secondary schools. And those teachers are in pain. And not just because they have had to go through this very difficult time of feeling unsafe and all these things, but they are having a hard time engaging students again. And so that is the most pressing thing, is how do we re-engage students? But also the students have built their own community throughout those 3 years that they are finding more engaging than being in school. And so I've seen a lot of issues where the kids prefer to be on their community online as opposed to coming back into school. So I think that connection building and real connection building is key to happen again. So my facilitation style is I call it a bit of seat of your pants. I come in with a shape that I want to address, but it follows the vibe of the room. And so my style is scanning the room. I have what I want to deliver, but I make sure that it also suits the vibe of the people in the room and what would come out of it. And so I never hold on tight to an agenda. My teaching style is just, let's go with the flow. This is what I'd love to share with you, and let's see what happens. So it's kind of the surprise element as well, but I think it's about also making that fun space where people feel a little bit like surprised about themselves, and then all of a sudden it becomes much more conducive to deeper engagement. Yeah, there is one book that stands out for sure that is my absolute favorite book, and that is Independent People by Halldór Laxness, an Icelandic novelist. And the reason that it stands out, not only because it moves me in really deep ways, it's literally a book about a sheep farmer and this saga about the family in a small little area in Iceland, sort of before World War I approximately, and kind of spanning that time. But it was because the teacher who introduced it to me was at UBC, and I was in sciences and struggling, and I took Germanic studies and Swedish and Germanic literature in my thing, and just flowed. And he introduced me to the power of literature, but also that specific book. And then he and I connected deeply, and not only because I'm Swedish and he was Swedish, but it was this love of this piece. And when he talked, he spat because he was so excited. And but he let me do my essays as visual portraits. And that was incredible. And then he supported me often throughout the years. We would reconnect. And the final part, it gets me all weepy, was a few months ago. I delivered a portrait that he had ordered, and he passed away a week later. So it was pretty moving. But that book, since 1983, is the book. And I have probably 5 different versions of it. Well, maybe there's a few people in my life that know things about me that not very many people know. I was extremely anxious as a child, and just, did not want to interact with people, but you're forced to in school. But dance opened that door. And so I was actually a professional dancer, was in a company, and in the 80s, all that juicy, delicious stuff. And it was eye-opener. When I moved back to Sweden as a teenager, it got worse, the social anxiety, because teenagers there were a lot more mature in the 70s than a Canadian teenager. And it was in dance that I found and blossomed and had my own community. So for me, it was, I was a professional dancer. So that's something not very many people know. So I always say, little brown mouse, that is me. I do have, I often draw little brown mice because they're unassuming, very creative, and quiet, and more powerful than we think. However, I respond deeply, deeply, deeply with the sparrow, just the lowly sparrow. Yeah, and I will never not stop when I watch a sparrow, and I draw dead sparrows. I love the sound of them. So for me, I identify and I feel that, I should be more sparrow than a little brown mouse, but both of those. And so, I really am about those sort of unassuming little creatures that we may not pay attention to.